The incomparable Bruce Buffer going to be very busy on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in Las Vegas. One of the names he will be announcing, Irish Joe Duffy. He is in action this Friday against Mitch Clarke, Ultimate Fighter finale, and he is joining us right now via the magic of Skype. There he is, Joe Duffy himself. How are you, Joe?
I'm good, thanks, Ariel. Yourself?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you stopping by. I know it's a very busy time for you over there. You are in Las Vegas right now. Does it feel like the calm before the storm? Are there a ton of fans? What's the vibe like right now?
It's feeling quite calm, all right. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's quite. I haven't experienced too much of it yet. The hotel's pretty chilled. Everything's on the doorstep. So far, it's quite quiet. But I suppose when the weigh-ins start and everything, that's when the feeling will start to come. It'll all start to kick in.
Now it's big for a fighter to be a part of this weekend. You're the night before 200. Did a part of you really want to be on that 200 card, or do you not really care which card that you fell on?
No, it didn't matter to me. Obviously, being a part of 200 would have been a big compliment, and obviously, a big opportunity to showcase for the fans. But I'm just excited to be on the weekend and excited to get back in there.
Yeah, and so you say get back in there. We have not seen you since December. We have not seen you since the Dustin Poirier fight. Of course, that was a frustrating night for you in Las Vegas, so you're back to the scene of the crime. How did you handle it? It was a bloody fight. You showed a lot of heart. I think a lot of people respected you afterwards, even though you didn't get the win. But for you, how did you get over the loss? How did you handle it in the weeks afterwards?
Yeah, it's never easy, getting your head around a loss, but I went back to Montreal, chilled out for a few days, licked my wounds, and then got back in the gym. Normal story, I feel the only way you can handle it is get back to work and fix the issues, during the fight, and that's what I've been doing. Just work hard, and I feel like my game's progressed a lot, and I feel that it was a blessing in disguise.
I want to expand on that. There's just a lot of static in my ears when I'm hearing you. I don't know if it's because of the phone or something. Do you mind if we call you? Maybe you would do like Skype audio. Your Skype video is great, but it's just a lot of static, and I want people to hear what you're saying. So we're going to call you right back, okay?
No problem at all.
Okay, let's call Joe back and make sure that we can hear that, because it's just tough to hear him with the static in the ears. So we'll get in touch with him. Like I said, the last time we saw Joe was back in December, lost a unanimous decision to Dustin Poirier. He is a part of the Ultimate Fighter finale card on Friday. That is at the MGM. That is headlined by Joanna. No, is it? I messed up. He's a part of the Thursday card. Excuse me. See, it's hard to keep track of all of these. He's a part of the July 7th card at the MGM. That's the card headlined by Rafael dos Anjos versus Eddie Alvarez. The quote-unquote co-main event is Derek Lewis versus Roy Nelson. That's the fight that Bruce Buffer was just talking about. What an amazing fight that is. Alan Jouban versus Belal Muhammad, Joe Duffy versus Mitch Clarke. It is a 4-fight main card, but that doesn't really matter because the entire card is on Fight Pass. Some other notable names on that particular card: Mike Pyle, longtime veteran Anthony Burchak fighting John McDessie, another Montrealer competing on that card as well. Who else is there? Gilbert Burns, Vicente Luque. So that's the Thursday card. The Thursday, Friday cards are at the MGM, and then the Saturday card will mark the very first UFC event at the T-Mobile Arena. I've never been inside the T-Mobile Arena. That's one of the things. I've seen it from the outside. I love going to new arenas and seeing what they are like, just how they were built, what it looks like. And I'm told from people who have covered boxing or just been to an event there, a boxing match, that they really built it. And obviously they would do this, being the fact that it's Las Vegas. They really built it with the idea in mind that every seat is a good seat and every seat is a great one for a boxing / MMA event. That is where the new NHL team is going to play in 2 seasons, not this season, next. I'm curious to see what it looks like, because the MGM is a nice arena. This one holds around 20,000 for combat sports. MGM capacity is around 16,000, so it's a bit of an upgrade. The word is that it's not sold out just yet. I wonder if that's going to change come Saturday. I can almost guarantee that if Conor was a part of the card, Conor McGregor, if it was the original Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz fight, that it would have sold out. But I think they're pretty pleased nonetheless. I do believe we have Joe back on the line. Joe, are you there?
I'm here, Ariel.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. And by the way, I screwed up. I hope I didn't screw you up. You're fighting on Thursday, not Friday. It's hard to keep track of all these fights. There's a lot going on, but you are fighting Thursday, not Friday. Are you going to stick around for the fights Friday, Saturday, or are you going to go back home afterwards?
No, I'm going to stick around. My brother and my dad's here, and there's a few that's made the journey, so I'm going to stick around, watch the fights and enjoy Vegas for a few days.
You said that there's a lot that you learned from the Poirier fight. Can you expand on that? What are some of the lessons that you took away from that?
Yeah, that was. I think the main one was that I just needed a little bit more time to let everything settle into my game. I felt I was a little bit too one-track minded in the fight. Maybe just going in there looking to stand up, and maybe in my training I probably spent too much time doing that also. So I've had a lot more shoot boxing in, and I've been working on my overall game as always, just trying to make it as well rounded as possible. So when I get in there, I'm using every aspect of my game.
Do you feel like it was a little too soon for you in your progression as a UFC lightweight, that there was a big gap between Dustin and your previous opponents in the UFC?
No, definitely not. It's a fight. I definitely believed I could win. Up until the last bell, and even now it's a fight I still believe I can win. So I don't feel it was too soon. I thought it was a great fight, even though I didn't get the win. I think everyone's got a different path, and I'm glad it's gone this way.
You are, because it allowed you to look at some of the things that you were doing wrong.
Exactly. That's it. In wins or losses, you're always growing. Every time you fight, there's lessons to be learned. And I always find, when you lose, you probably learn a hell of a lot more. And you learn a lot about yourself also. So that's it. It's one of them. You take it on board and get back to the grindstone.
Did you suffer any serious injuries in that fight?
No, nothing. Everything was all cosmetic, really.
Okay.
A couple of stitches, and my eye was swollen. But other than that, nothing to write home about.
Well, that is good, because he did break his nose. He looked like a mess himself. I would imagine, I can't say that I've seen all your boxing matches, but that must have been the bloodiest fight that you've ever been a part of. Am I wrong? Have you ever been in something worse than that?
No, definitely. It was definitely probably the bloodiest fight I've been involved in. I've had a few tough battles over the years, but that was certainly up there with the worst. It's probably the worst I looked after a fight, that's for sure.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for that, and you can learn something about yourself, just the fact that you hung in there for all those, the 15 minutes. And I hear you are 7 months later coming back. Did you want to take an extended break? I mean, more than half the year, before coming back. Was that part of your plan, or is that just how things worked out?
Yeah, that was part of the plan, win or lose. I felt I wanted to take a bit of time just to enjoy my training. And obviously, outside of fight camp is the time I feel you learn and improve the most. So, that was always the plan, and I'm glad I've done it. Definitely, I think once you start creeping up close to the top 15, the top 10, you need to slow things down and make sure that everything's progressing at the right time.
I'm assuming one of the nice byproducts of your last fight is that the Conor McGregor questions have sort of gone away for a little bit. Is that accurate?
Yeah, they've gone away. Obviously, with me losing, and then the Conor Diaz fight as well, they've gone away. So, again, it doesn't really bother me too much. I just do my own thing.
He was supposed to be fighting Saturday. Were you disappointed when he was taken off the card? Because a lot of Irish fans would come support you as well. You would get that attention with him being on the card and so many people traveling. Did that bum you out at all?
Not particularly. Obviously, it would have been nice to have all the Irish fans, coming over and the support. But I'm sure there'd be plenty here. I've had a lot of people message me on social media. Irish fans is here, that's travelled. So I'm just excited to get back in there now, and hopefully we'll have a good a good gang from home there as well. Making some noise.
A couple of months ago, as you know, he was involved in that issue with the UFC where he didn't want to come to the press conference, and it was interesting to see who was supporting him, who was not. And I've wanted to ask you this for quite some time. There was a picture posted by Tom Breeze, your teammate over at TriStar, of you two in the ring. We're showing it right now, and you were actually wearing a Conor McGregor T-shirt, and this was during his whole ordeal with the UFC. Were you trying to send a message, perhaps of support for your fellow countrymen? Why were you wearing a Conor shirt while that was that a coincidence? What was going on there?
Actually, I was sparring Tom in the gym, and I forgot my training gear, and they had all T-shirts for sale in the gym. So I just grabbed that T-shirt. But it's one of them. Like it wasn't none of my business. All that politics or fighting or whatever. I didn't. I don't get involved in anything else. I can 100% understand Conor's point on it. Obviously he's he lost that fight, and he really wants to be serious about his training. So from a fighter, I can definitely understand that. And nobody does more media work and everything than him. So I'm sure he's eager to get that win back, and I can understand that point of view totally.
So when I saw that picture, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Joe Duffy, last man to beat him. They're not the best of friends. They're not even teammates. Here he is subtly supporting his guy, his fellow countryman. What you're telling me is it was just a coincidence that you just took the first T-shirt that you can get?
Pretty much.
Oh.
I just grabbed it in the gym. It wasn't like I said. I wasn't trying to make any statements or anything, and I didn't even think about it. To tell you the truth, I didn't think about everything that was going on, because I'm not one for for being on social media and everything else too much anyway. So I think Tom took the photo, and then of course it went viral. It went crazy. So I didn't like I said, I didn't even think about the whole implications of taking that photo with the T-shirt on.
So I'm sure you saw that in the aftermath, because you got a lot of credit for that. Might as well run with that. I'm almost upset that I even asked you, because people were like, look at Joe Duffy. I mean, you got a ton of love for that, and from media, from fans, I'm sure from a lot of people in Ireland. I thought it was the coolest thing. Like that was the first, when I think back to that of all the people putting out support, that was the coolest thing. And now I just feel like I was told Santa Claus doesn't exist.
No, well, it's one of them, like I said, I understood Conor's point, but it'd be wrong of me to take credit for all that when that wasn't
sure.
So.
Were you disappointed when he lost because now you're no longer the last man to beat him?
No, it's one of them. I'm always been very patriotic since I was young. Living away from home. I think it makes you a little bit more, I don't know, like a little bit more touchy, when it comes to that subject. So, I always want to see an Irishman do well. So, whatever the beef is between me and Conor, I always want to see him do well. And, it was a shame. It was a shame to see him lose that fight. I definitely feel he didn't perform to the best of his ability on that night, and I think the second fight he'll take, but it definitely wasn't for the tag. I'm not really a fan of the tag, and I'm sure he's not either. So
sure. So you're predicting that he wins the second fight?
Yeah. I think Conor's got the better stand-up. I think last time he just loaded up a little bit. Maybe the whole expectations, he was expected, to knock Nate out straight away. And I think maybe the pressure of it all, changes opponents, all this different stuff was a factor. I think this time, think he'll win, but I think it'll be on decision. I think over 5 rounds, he'll just, he'll stick a move, he'll pick him apart.
Now you're fighting another Canadian, Mitch Clarke, on Thursday. A guy who hasn't fought in quite some time, had a freak injury. I don't know if you heard about this, where he was doing acupuncture and it got stuck in his arm. Have you seen this photo, this X-ray of the acupuncture needle stuck in his arm? You ever seen this?
No, I can't say that.
It's horrible. You should Google it. That kept him on the sidelines, got an infection, all this stuff. So he hasn't fought since April of 2015. It's been more than a year. Your reaction to getting that fight? Did you like that fight? Did you even know who Mitch Clarke was? How much did you know about him when you were offered this several months ago?
To tell you the truth, I didn't know much about Mitch at all. When I was back in the UK, I couldn't really keep an eye on all the fights as well as I would like because of the time difference. So I was well out of the loop. When I got offered the fight, I thought it was a good opportunity. I know Eric and Faraz were talking about it, and I think they thought there was a great opportunity for me to show my improvements. Especially in the areas that I struggled in the Poirier fight. So I think that was probably the thoughts behind it. But it's a fight I'm definitely I'm excited about because he's been in there with some great guys, and everyone he fights, he gives them a hard time. So
I like the fight for you. I think it's a good comeback fight. By the way, what's the vibe at TriStar these days now that GSP said he's coming back? Does everyone have a little pep in their step? Has that affected, a rising tide lifts all boat? Any difference at all now that he's, fully committing to coming back?
I think, just having George, and we have George in the gym every week, so everyone's always excited. Who doesn't want to work with one of the best of all time? This camp, I've been really lucky. I've got lots of rounds in with George. I've been really grateful for his help. He's given me lots of advice, and I've been getting lots of drilling in with him as well. So
wow,
it's been amazing. Especially for me, someone who's been a fan of George. From a young age, it's been pretty surreal. But yeah, it's always great. I mean, you look at the caliber of the guys we got in the gym and the names we got in the gym. George, Rory, who couldn't have an extra pep in their step, walking into that gym.
Is that something like you just hope that he's around when you're there, or do you actually seek him out before camp and say, look, I'd love to work with you, can we schedule things together? How do you get all that time with George St. Pierre, who I'm sure is being asked to help everyone out in the gym if possible?
I think it kind of just happened. I know, him and Eric were discussing training, and I think that's how it came about that I got some rounds in with George, each week. But yeah, like you said, everyone wants a piece of his time. Everyone wants to, ask him questions and so on. So, I think it was just, the right time, and I got lucky.
He's going to be in Las Vegas, right?
I think he's here maybe Friday or Saturday. I'm not 100% sure, to tell you the truth.
Okay, so I was going to ask if he's cornering you. He will not be cornering you.
No, I got the Zahabi brothers.
Uh-huh.
Eamon's here with me now. He says hello, Ariel. He's raring to go himself.
Yes. When is he going to go to the UFC? A lot of buzz about Faraz's younger brother, Ayman Zahabi. Is he close to making it? Is he ready to make it in the UFC? Is he ready to fight there?
Oh, without a doubt, he's ready. With the guy, the killer, he's 35, and a 35er, and he hits like he's a 170er.
Wow.
He's got all the tools. It's exciting. I'm sure it'll all happen soon. We're eager to see it ourselves.
Yes. What a fascinating story that is going to be. Okay, so we'll wait for that. For now, looking forward to your return. One of the many intriguing fights coming up this weekend in Las Vegas. Joe Duffy against Mitch Clarke. A great comeback fight for Joe Duffy, and that's taking place on Thursday on Fight Pass at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Joe, you're a class act. I appreciate the time greatly. Best of luck to you on Thursday. Looking forward to seeing you out there.
Thanks, Aaron. All the best. See you soon.
All right, there he is. Irish Joe stopping by. Very important fight for him. Remember that fight against Dustin Poirier did not go his way. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he rebounds Thursday night in Las Vegas.